Children are starting school without being taught basic skills by their parents, with some as old as 5 not even toilet trained. That's according to an education chief in Walsall in the West Midlands, where one school has even employed a dedicated nappy changer. So how have we got to this point? Do you think that parents are busier or in some cases lazier? And do you think that it's fair that schools do take on this responsibility?
I think that this whole situation made me a little bit cross, because I do feel that when I was at school, I think teachers were allowed to do more to help. And I think that, you know, with my own experiences of my 2 boys when they started school, one of them had real issues with going to the toilet at school. It made him feel anxious. He was in this article, you know, the teacher's saying, you know, they're 5, for goodness sakes, why can't they, you know, competently go to the toilet properly? I do think that most children can by that age, but I think that starting a new school, the anxieties that come with it, all of these different things can make a child find it difficult to either go to the toilet at the right time. I had issues with my children wiping themselves properly. The teachers now their school weren't allowed into the toilet with them to help or to explain or to do anything. So I then had a problem where my child wouldn't go to the toilet at school and would hold it all day, and really ended up damaging his body because it was such a big deal. And I do think that parents and teachers need to work together rather than teachers blaming parents and going, you're lazy and you haven't bothered to do this. Actually, some children do find it very difficult to go to the toilet at school.
Well, to the Walsall Council, we approached them for a response, and they said schools have increased staffing resources within their early years provision to meet a range of needs. So it's not necessarily just for this one thing, but obviously this thing will be included in it. And I do think you're completely right, Stacey, I do. But I think what some teachers may feel is they're there to teach, and if children are arriving at school without sort of basic needs catered for, they're spending a lot of time doing that. So it makes sense to bring someone else in to deal with things like toilet issues.
I hear what you're saying, Andrea, but for once I'm going to be slightly on the side of the mums, because over the last few years, successive governments have encouraged women to go out to work, and they say they're trying to make it easier for women to go out to work, and more women than ever are at work. Now, not all those women are going to work just because they want to go to work. The vast majority are going to work because they need to go to work for financial reasons and to make ends meet. And those women are in low-paid jobs on 0 hours contracts. They're working, most of them are on shift work. Now, in my day, my mother worked part-time when I was at primary school. More and more of these women are having to work extremely long hours, and we've got to cut them some slack. They're doing the best they can, and teachers also are being asked to do more and more bureaucracy, more lesson planning. They're under a lot of pressure to meet all sorts of targets, so they don't want to get involved in things a few years ago they would have been happy to do so. But looking at it from the mum and dad's point of view, I don't want to demonise mums, because this whole statement from Walsall Council, which says if they haven't got basic skills, how can they be educated? Well, try to understand the pressures on the mothers in the first place.
Saying, and I think obviously it seems to be a big problem now, because we often talk about this from schools, saying that kids are turning up when they're not. So it's got to be something to do with the fact that a lot of mothers now go back to work early because they have to or whatever, because we've all been to school, all of us, and it seems that we didn't have this years ago. You never got... I mean, you'd have a child that would turn up that would hold it so long, and then all of a sudden they're standing in a puddle.
Yes.
You know? But that was me.
And you'd have the odd, you know, when I was at school...
the odd accident.
And also in my primary school, we had a really naughty girl who didn't want to be there, and she used, you know, she'd go to the toilet every single week as a way of making a protest, and we all knew stay away from her. You know, we're due for another one of those.
The thing is, I don't know how they're going to implement that anyway, because by the time Kira went to school, in primary school, you know, in the heat of the sun, they weren't allowed to put suntan oil on them.
They can't do
anything.
anything
If they fall
anymore.
over, they can't put a plaster on them. So how can they have someone that's going to do a very private function, like take them to the toilet?
When I was at school, I remember my teachers taking us into the toilet and saying, do you need any help? Do you need anything with that? Is everything OK in there? Have you washed your hands? Now they're not allowed anywhere near, you know, these kids, you just got off you go.
Did the teacher take you to the toilet?
Yeah, to teach. When I was really diddy, I'm talking about like preschool, school, like infancy,
yeah.
you know, 4 or 5
nursery.
years old. You're a baby still. And yeah, my teachers would hold my hand to the toilet, make sure I went there.
Yeah.
They would shout in if I took too long. I think there's so much that teachers can't do now. They can't even give you a hug. If you
Yeah,
hurt
if you're
yourself and you're
upset.
crying. I mean, let alone if you're struggling to wipe yourself or, you know, you've had a messy poo, let's say, at school. What do you do? But I know it sounds gross, but these are kids.
You wanna go there,
They need the guidance. They do need the guidance.
I know they
think.
do, but then so should the parent. The parents are going to have to step up a bit.
But they can't
just
be
left
there
to
at
the
school with
schools.
them, can they? So when they are at school, what do they do?
I think there's always been that kind of bumpy transition when, especially little tots first go to school, for all the reasons that you said, whether it's anxiety and holding it in, and for a mixture of parents being really busy. We've always had this. This isn't necessarily anything new. And, you know, especially boys, you know, they get so busy they don't want to stop and go to the loo, and then next thing they look down and it's all too late and they've gone. None of this is new, and I think at least something's being done about it, and it might not necessarily be palatable to everyone, but at least something's being done.